This is gonna be interesting. I've never done like a react.
All right.
I'm sorry, I've already paused the video. It's too late. There's no going back. I've never done a React Andy stream this long. I really don't know how this is gonna work, guys. I genuinely cannot. I cannot talk over people. Can you speed it up? I totally can. Do we want to watch this at 1.5 speed? We just fast forward to the changes. Just play it at 1.5. Okay. We'll just react to the changes. That's a good idea, guys. It's okay. We don't need to do a poll. I will play this and then I will listen to what they have to say about the changes, and then I will say my part. How about that? It's not the entire stream. All right. 2 or bust. Yeah, let's play it at 2 times speed. This is how I used to like watch some of my lecture videos. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Back when I was in college.
Welcome to our patch 4.10 balanced live stream. I'm very excited. We are streaming to both YouTube and Twitch today for the first time.
You know, this isn't that bad.
I have my eye on both of the chats, so hopefully I can catch all of the really good questions and answer anything that you guys want to know for this live stream. So let's go ahead and kick it right off. We are going to get balance changes. Let's go ahead and let our designers introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves.
This is like very manageable, but I'm not gonna do it for the sake of the viewer. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Go ahead and start with.
So we're gonna skip ahead to the changes.
Made a bunch of flex cards.
Hello, Runeclaw. Hello, Walrus. Hello, Jules. Likes aggro mirrors. Honestly, kind of base, because I think aggro mirrors are actually pretty fun to play.
Thank you so much, John, for helping take over the pack.
This is how the Zoomers see the world. What like zoom thing? Is that like a very common thing?
Design lead on anything yet? We're working on.
Okay, we'll go to the changes.
So loudly that everybody can hear it. So maybe I'll refrain. Maybe I'll just talk to chat.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into the goals for the
buffs to. They're gonna talk about the goals. I think that's actually really important because it tells you like their intentions, right?
So I was the lead to start at the patch, so I had set up kind of some initial goals, as we often do for patches. Of course, any standard balance patches nerfs to the overperformers of the current standard environment. We want to make sure the new cards weren't too unhealthy and try and bring things back down to a reasonable level. In addition to that, really for this one, we were looking at big monsters. You know, we just released Volibear. And
okay, so they're trying to buff like the Volibear tools.
And we're trying to make a very concentrated effort to make these big monsters better. And this patch is a good time to go in and look at a couple of
big monsters makes me think about the Volibear tools.
There's a lot of really cool, sad epics that exist. As we're looking at using, rarity and stuff for like Path of Champions, it turns out that some of our more rare cards are actually just like kind of bad and not in like.
I think that like that's a good a good perspective to go about it, because there are a lot of epic cards that aren't super great at the moment. But the problem is when you buff those like bad epic cards, it ends up being a lot of like, I don't want to call them pointless buffs, because there's a lot of like casual enjoyers of the game, but the cards kind of just like, what I found at least is like they are nice, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but like I said, it's just like they don't end up like impacting the meta. It basically, right?
Like a fun way. They're just not fun or good, and no one really.
I mean, we'll
see.
see.
And that's just not a great place to be. So we want to take
anti-elusive tools is a really interesting focus also.
Winning an epic in the game, a more exciting thing. And in addition to that, we had an extra little cycle of, can we give a couple more anti-elusive tools to the game? You know, we always see players frustrated that maybe their deck doesn't really have something to help fight elusives, or
they rotated out Sharp Sight too, which is really interesting. So Sharp Sight was rotated out from standard, so it makes sense that they want to try to find more elusive tools for decks in general, because with the rise of like Warden decks, you saw a lot of like, you saw these like really dumb like Teemo like elusive decks popping up here and there. Technically Samira Fizz is a very elusive oriented combo deck, but I'm biased because I think Samira Fizz is a cool elusive deck. Buffing epics just buffs manifest in a competitive setting. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, sometimes that might just be good enough.
That feels like there's just something.
Okay, so now that we have a general idea of what like what they were wanting, like what their goal was. I think that's really important because it sets the preface for a lot of the changes that they're making. So let's talk about let's look into the nerfs.
This one, please take it away.
Yeah, this is a nerf that I think will surprise basically no one. We are going to increase the cost of Warden of the Tribes back up to 9.
This makes a lot of sense.
Change we had made in a previous patch. Warden decks are meant to be kind of this, like, you pay a little bit of cost in deck building to develop this menagerie of subtypes, and then Warden lets you win the game. But honestly, like, the menagerie build that has been going around is just consistent enough that the penalty in deck building is not really, like, limiting the deck in the way that it should.
So then that brings up the question, is Warden still good at 9 mana, right? This is like something that happened with Champion Strength, and I use Champion Strength as an example because Champion Strength, I believe, also went up in cost, and then they had to nerf it more, right? Because I also think that Warden of the Tribes deck-wise is very similar to like Champion Strength type deck builds, because you are just building up a board, slamming units, and then you slap down your win con, right? And that's it. You win the game. It's a mid-range, like board-based deck with like a huge, I say board-based deck, like mid-range decks are board-based decks, but anyways, and then you have like a big giant win con, right? They can't make Warden unplayable the same patch they buff Singular Will. Spoilers. Innovative Blacksmith getting -1 attack is also very justified too, and I'm very happy to see that.
So we wanted to push Warden back another turn, make you have to wait a little bit longer for that menagerie payoff to land.
Yeah, I mean...
and secondarily, we've just kind of noticed that Innovative Blacksmith is a really important card for a lot of Freljord-based equipment decks, and kind of like
it is. It definitely is.
As a way to like stabilize the board, develop a lot of value.
The healing makes a big difference too.
Into play. So making that slightly weaker, we think the card will still like have a very strong role in Freljord decks, but not be quite as dominant.
It's interesting because they wanted to take away healing from Freljord, so they rotated a lot of healing cards. So it makes sense that like Innovative Blacksmith, who's already a very solid 3-drop, which heals you, was very solid for a very long time. That being said, with no other changes in the patch, I think that Warden of the Tribes at 9 mana, Warden of the Tribes decks would still be running around, but because we're also getting a whole slew of other changes, I think that this will make a lot more of a difference.
Yeah. And I see you loud and...
So we didn't want to just like...
particular,
Wait, they didn't want to what?
We wanted to instead try and contain it a little bit and leave the door open in case it needs to be dealt with in a future patch.
Yeah, I just want to say in particular, part of the goal for the patch was making more big plays something people want to do. So just increasing Warden and keeping it awesome and powerful is much more of like what we want to do with big monsters rather than, make them weaker and less cool. No, just make them cost a little more and still be as sweet as possible.
Okay, so like the change to Warden of the Tribes is technically part of like the big monsters that they're talking about before. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense that like they... Actually, let me think about this for a second. They don't want to close the door on Warden-based decks or like these mid-rangey style decks, right? It says what their philosophy is in terms of like what they want for the standard meta, right? It seems like, and I'm inferring, I'd love to hear other people's opinions about this. But obviously, it seems like their philosophy, right, is that they never want to like nerf a card into the ground or nerf a deck into the ground because they fully have the capability of doing that, of course, right? But it seems like for standard, they prefer more of a mid-range meta for standard over anything else, is what it seems like, at least. And the reason why I also say that is because, first of all, mid-range has kind of reigned supreme and standard for a very long time now. Very long time being like, it's been several opens worth of standard. And you have to remember that we're getting eternal opens in between that as well. This is like Aatrox was around for a really long time. and like it's all just like these are all very strong mid-range decks with high value, right? So I don't know. My inference is that yeah, it seems like mid-range might be a more ideal state for what they want for standard meta.
That's a really good point.
Let's go on to the next one. I think this might make maybe Sunny a little sad and some others, but
I think if Wildfire is what's making you sad, that's probably what you're doing to some other people. I'll admit it. So Wildfire, is one of those cards from Fate's Voyage where we wanted to give kind of some of the off regions cool tools to play with all the card draw, like Wildfire or Bursting Backpack, and they were kind of supposed to be, decks that people could play, but maybe weren't meta breakers. And Wildfire's definitely been crushing our metrics. Way more powerful and kind of uninteractive than we really want a spell-based like kill to be. Bursting Backpack a little healthier in that regard. So definitely just trying to slow down Wildfire.
Bursting Backpack is a really fun card, by the way. But this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they want to... I could 100% say this. This seems very like fair, very justified. Wildfire at 2 mana. There were like several Wildfire decks, I believe. I know one... Were there several? I'm pretty sure there were at least several Wildfire decks that were running around. There was one main meta one. But... yeah, no. Wildfire at 2 mana makes a lot of sense to me. To pick one, aggro, control, mid-range to be dominant, and has to be mid-range. I understand that, but at the same time, I think I wouldn't mind... I don't know what I wouldn't mind, honestly. Obviously, I'm not someone who really fully understands, like, balance or anything like that. Legends of Runeterra is, like, really the main only card game that I play. And so I'm probably the least qualified person to speak on something like this. But I think it also could be that my opinion about, having a mid-range meta for so long is skewed because we have been in a mid-range meta for a very long time with standard, and I'm kind of like, I wouldn't mind the envelope being pushed a bit. But I don't know if that's me coming from like a more privileged space in like with Legends of Runeterra where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind if it was like if there were like different things that were allowed to flourish in the meta at least. I don't know. Out of punchers players to anything. I was a Wildfire abuser. I am happy to say that I was not. My streamer agreeing with everything. I need more controversy. Let's get later on then, shall we? We're only on nerf 2.
Entirely around them. Hopefully this will cost you an extra turn or
well,
two.
Nerf 3 technically.
If you play 5 of these in a game, that's plus 5 extra mana. That's a lot.
A lot of people are sending their condolences to Wick. It's quite crazy because
I do also really like combo decks. They're sending their condolences to Wick in the chat. That's insane. Wick's impact needs to be studied.
The 2 types of people in chat. People are celebrating this, very, very happy, and some people are very, very sad. So I can tell who has been abusing this.
That's funny. I literally never was a Wildfire abuser. I just found it pretty annoying because I felt like that deck scaled up really high. Okay, what the fuck is this, by the way?
Very, very happy.
Yeah, I will say that I don't think the card is dead. It is still very powerful and it still does its thing. You still play 6 Wildfires in a game and that's 21 damage. Just because it's a little slower.
21 damage! Are we okay with that? You should have the VOD chat open. If I have the VOD chat open, then I gotta move you guys. Chat box. How do I move you guys? I gotta move you guys and I gotta move me. Right? How do I do this? Okay, give me a second. It's fine. We're chilling. We're vibing. I'm just gonna move myself over here. How about that? That's good, right? Is this too much on the screen? This feels like a lot. Is this okay?
That's still gonna win games.
I'll leave. We'll try this out for a little bit.
Let's move on in. I'm pretty sure that one of our producers, Greg, will be sad about this, but...
What the fuck? This is so fucking funny. I'm sorry, but like... like, them nerfing Lurk, like, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. The fact that Pyke continuously eats nerfs for Lurk's sins cracks me the fuck up. This is so funny. This card is so unplayable outside of Lurk. It's not even funny. I mean, okay, it is funny. Don't get me wrong. It is fucking hilarious. But like, and I say that because I'm not a Lurk player, and I can say I'm not a Lurk player. Rip to all my Lurk homies out there. This is so fucking funny. Why? Like, maybe like, I don't. Why does Pyke keep eating it for Lurk sins? Like, what about my girl Rek'Sai? That's insane. 5 mana? They took away one of his powers. They're gonna make him 5 mana? Damn. Lurk mains everywhere crying. Died for Lurk sins. Wow. Oh my god. I'm gonna move this back. We're gonna get rid of the chat. That's hilarious. Does he have 5-cost 1/3? He's a 5-cost 1/3. Is that the most expensive 5-cost with the lowest stat line? That's insane. Jothry's crying. Jothry crying in the corner. Rek'Sai sucks in comparison, not gonna lie. Look at Pyke. Look at Pyke. Oh god, it's crazy because Pyke is such like a badass champion, but like, this is just, wow, this is very unplayable for Pyke. Wow. Funny nerf, but screw. This is a real. As much as this sucks for Lurk players and for people who enjoy Pyke and had any semblance of wanting to play him in a deck outside of Lurk, this does absolutely screw this archetype.
Poor Greg.
Yeah, poor Greg. Yeah, so we've also seen Lurk putting up pretty gaudy numbers recently, in spite of being a deck that hasn't changed a lot in the past couple years. One of the major spikes that they have is this ability to use Pyke's Death from Below to kind of take over, like put a big swing on the board and really change things up. We think like Lurk's general play pattern is its own thing. There are a lot of people who absolutely love it, and we don't want to just, remove the deck from the game entirely. But kind of reducing their reliance on some of these champions may actually be healthier for the deck as a whole.
All right, sounds good. Let's keep this nerf train going. Let's see.
Huh? You like? I mean, you still run 3 Pykes in a Lurk deck, right? Right, guys? I mean, it's not like there's any other Lurk cards to run, right? God, this is.
See what else is our next stop?
This one is a long
Okay.
time coming.
Based.
People have been calling for some changes to Jace Heimer
Based.
for as long as that deck has been popular, which has been
Thank fucking God.
at this point forever. So that's what we're doing here. We have 2 nerfs. One is to Epic Scraptraption, making the token.
These cards
so
pissed me off so much.
Runaway Scraptrap, lose Brash. That is a card that even non-Jace decks were playing sometimes to just make a 6/6 Brash on round 3, and it kind of led to more non-games than we were hoping. So we're cleaning that off, maybe making it just more of a Jace card, or a deck that wants to play big spells runs this.
Nice.
And Hextech Handler is the much more direct nerf to Heimer Jace.
So happy about that one.
Health buff for all the tech. It would happen where games would be you play 2 of these, the turrets are all X3s, you had a lot of removal turns off on them, and playing against Heimer at that point became really hard or frustrating, or even when not Heimer, playing I can't remember the name of the spell that summons all the turrets for all of your mana. Why can't I remember?
I'm glad to know that I'm not that. That happens to devs too, like not just me, right? Or you forget the names of the cards. Oh my god. But yes, the extra stat that Hextech Handler gave just made me so annoyed, and maybe just because I'm sick of like Heimer Jace and it's been around for too long. But like, yeah, I was just sick of a lot of the things that this deck was doing. So it's nice to see that there are some cards on this deck that are getting
Surge.
hit.
Yeah.
Production Surge, that one. So playing Production Surge after a couple Hextech handlers and just really filling the board with turrets and stuff could be rather painful to play against. So
It was
we're making
very-
it aware that small ping removal is again a little
It was very painful. Units that are supposed to have 1 health having 2 health. Very painful.
bit better against them and open up more avenues of attack there.
A lot of chat is actually in agreement with this, which is
Twitch chat knows what's up.
here's the next one. I have conflicting feelings about this one, but I'll
Watchful Idol going to a 0/4. Let me hear what they have
I'll
to
let
say.
y'all talk about it.
Yeah, Watchful Idol is a tough card. Basically, like, we know that this deck is pretty key to Alawi strategies working. This card is pretty key to Alawi strategies working. Being able to start that Tentacle on round 1 is pretty huge for the spawn deck. But at the same time,
Tentacle is
leaving
only
it at
a
5
2/2.
health was basically giving you a 3/3 for 1 mana investment, even if it was like slow and over time, that then also like interacted well with all your other cards. And secondarily, this was also really boosting Swain and kind of keeping him in a spot where it was tough to actually make Swain outside of Alawi decks work well. We think making this change allows us to like let Alawi still play, and then we can kind of see the impact that it has on those secondary decks and make moves based off of these changes.
So basically, the target of the Watchful Idol nerf is what I'm gleaning is that this was also like they wanted to hit Swain too a little bit. I feel like Swain was mostly only played in Alawi Swain, but I still feel like Jarvan Alawi was the stronger deck list. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't recall seeing Swain in any other deck list besides Alawi Swain, which is interesting. So the purpose of hitting like Watchful Idol to hit both Alawi and Swain is... I don't think Swain is in like a fantastic spot at the moment, personally. Like, he has played in Alawi Swain, which is technically considered a meta deck. And I do remember previously people were calling for this card to get nerfed. But previously in like a different meta. Swain decks without Flock. I thought they said they wanted to have Swain a different deck. Oh, they want Swain to be played in like other decks. They said that Watchful Idol was being played in Swain decks without Alawi, is what I'm pretty sure I heard. I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. They were saying that like Swain was flourishing with this card outside of Alawi, and the whole point is that Watchful Idol is supposed to be an Alawi card. Maybe an Eternal? Maybe an Eternal. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Watchful Idol, like the Tentacle is just going to go down to a 2/2 now. I mean, I do think that Tentacles could have a nerf. I guess Watchful Idol makes the most sense to hit. TF Swain abuses card? Yes, it did before. I remember that.
I'm still sad to lose the one Tentacle, but you know, for the greater good of the game, I will accept it.
I can tell you
A
from
true
playtesting,
hero.
Watchful Idol on 1 is still really good.
Yeah, I remember people were calling for Watchful Idol to get nerfed previously. But yeah, I think it's like, now I don't think it matters as much because people haven't been playing Swain with Alawi.
All right, next, Sting.
Sting Officer goes to a 1/2. This is a nerf. I guess it's -1 health. I actually really, really like this change. Before they say anything, because I think that this is more focused on like the Caitlyn Flash Bomb archetype, rather than him being like an elusive aggro unit, which is the only reason this card was played in the first place. That being said, I mean, I think this is great, but it doesn't really help out the Flash Bomb trap archetype. It's just like preventing this card from being used in like BS Teemo aggro decks.
Officer.
Yeah, Sting Officer. We were looking for things to change within the elusive strategies that have been popping back up again. And honestly, that deck's pretty hard to nerf. There's a lot of cards that are already just 1-mana 1/1s, and there's not a lot of numbers to move on those.
That makes a lot of sense.
Sting Officer, a card that was always supposed to be a traps card.
Stinky
never
Officer.
A good mat deck because it often died to small pin removal. So we made it a 1/2 here, hoping that that gives the elusive decks a little less aggression. Give them maybe a little more texture with one unit that's got a little more health, and actually makes this card better in the traps archetype because it's going to survive longer to give you 1 or 2 extra Nexus strikes, maybe actually get you some traps planted, when before
that's why I like this buff. It's nice.
You just wouldn't get anything out of that deck.
Yeah, so that actually, I didn't even think about that, which is that the Teemo deck is really hard to nerf, actually, because it's just filled with a bunch of one-drop shitters. So, yeah, I didn't even consider that. Wow. I think this change to Sting Officer, though, is perfectly fine. Like, it's still... It doesn't, like, hit the Flash Bomb deck. The quote-unquote... I put that in quotations, because it's not really a Flash Bomb deck that exists. Please buff more Flash Bombs. Thank you. But yeah. Yeah, I would love if Kayn got a little bit of a tweak, because I love Kayn. She's so cool. But she's just not strong enough.
Sad.
Coming out with Janna, and we knew that Janna's package needed like a little bit of an adjustment somewhere. So we looked at a lot of different cards and felt like this was a good place where it brings the card back in line, but you know, it's still drawing you 2 cards at the next round start. It's still getting its cost reduced. Like,
you wanna know what I just realized? Does this card have a worse stat line than Pyke? No, I think this is still a better stat line than Pyke, isn't it? Pyke is a 5-mana 1/3. This card is a 5-mana 2/2. This is definitely still a better stat line than Pyke, right? This is also 3 mana. That's true. When you draw 3+ cards, it only costs 3 mana. Rip my man Pyke. All my homies are so sad for Pyke. Oh, man. I mean, it just lost the power. In the grand scheme of things, like, yeah, you'll feel it when you play this in the deck, but you don't play this card because it's a 3/2 quick attack unit for like, you play it because it draws you 2 cards, which is for 3 mana, and it's a body, which is very nice. So I don't really think this hits the Janna package like at all, if I'm being honest with you. Did they hit anything else in the Janna package? Oh, we're about to find out. I don't even remember.
Oh, Balen the Benevolent. He was so benevolent that he buffed himself, which is not quite how benevolence works. But we have changed that. Now he's only going to grant other formidable allies the buff.
It's a very valid
Balen,
point.
Incredibly powerful, formidable.
It's honestly kind of selfish that he was giving it to himself.
Card kind of made formidable into an archetype almost single-handedly. His ability to just kind of stick around and play and grow his own health.
He did make formidable an archetype all by himself. That's a really good point. God damn.
Where it often was really hard to take him off the board. And that's kind of not something we want for cards that give an everywhere buff every single round. We want you to be able to block and trade with them, and if you want multiple buffs off of it, you really need to work for it. So hopefully this will kind of lower its ability to just run away with the game by itself on round 4.
Balen buffing itself pissed me off so much. I think I've just been a hater lately. I just keep getting pissed off by everything. So I'm happy to see this, honestly. I never thought I'd see the day where Formidables as an archetype would get nerfed. Wow. I mean, yeah. I mean, I know, like, the Petricite Bird, the 2-mana Challenger unit got nerfed, right? But, like, that card was also really good. This is good. But Balen, yes. It's a very valid point. Balen single-handedly carried Formidable. Wasn't even Galio Schmalio himself. This is the... Oh, that other nerf was the only Janna nerf? Well, that is interesting. Okay. Alright, so...
Like,
ooh, Valley of Immitation.
Coming down on 3.
Valley of
Irritation.
Irritation.
Easily into all of the various like transform synergy cards. We think adding 1 extra cost here like makes you make some more choices in that deck about like which thing that synergizes
4
super well with your
mana.
transforms are you going to play on a given turn. It's definitely a card that we think is a lot of fun and does some really interesting stuff, but was just coming down a little too fast to be healthy.
Oh, a lot of...
Huh. Rip Nidalee. Rip Nidalee Schmidalee. I feel like, okay, yes. I do agree that I think the Nidalee deck didn't really play like how they want a standard Legends of Runeterra deck to play. It was very interesting. But it was like... I feel like I didn't play against it enough, but I did watch Teddy play this deck. And I feel like when it did its thing, and when you pulled all the cards you needed to for a combo deck, this did have a lower barrier to pulling on the combo cards it needed, it did become very annoying to verse. I feel like Walrus just said, we're keeping Valley of Imitation as a meme card. Take it or leave it. Obviously, that's not what he said, but that's what I interpret it as. It was a deck that leveled Nidalee, not... Oh yeah, I know this wasn't a Nidalee deck. Nidalee was just a unit you played in this deck. This was a Valley of Imitation knock-a-talk deck. So... I need to be nerfed. Yes, this did not play like your state, like what you would expect of a standard Legends of Runeterra deck. So makes sense.
Nidalee enjoyers are quite sad, and I'm sad because it's, you know, obviously this is Chip right here. You know,
you should have a good Nidalee deck then, right? I like Nidalee. I think Nidalee deserves to have a good deck. I think she's cool. You know. Maybe we can find a good Nidalee deck, you know? Beguiling Cobra gets a nerf, too. Whoa.
Imitation of Chip, but...
That wasn't played in the Nidalee deck, though.
It had to happen. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get into it.
This was played in the Valley deck, though, like, as a funny, haha, like, meme combo. And when it did happen, it was, like, ridiculous. So they're making you play instead of summon, so it just doesn't work with Valley of Imitation now. Cobra Clone is over. That was never a meta deck to begin with, but I think them actually changing this, as like, unfortunate it is you can't do like the meme combo anymore. I think that I respect that they're making this change because it doesn't align with how they want like decks to play out or to pan out in general, right? That makes sense.
Here we have just a change that, you know, some people probably saw coming as well. Beguiling Cobra, changing it from being the first unit you summon each round to the first unit you play each round. Beguiling Cobra had quite a few ways to go infinite in the back row with some things.
Yeah, they really don't like
there.
infinite.
And that was just definitely overshadowing the other things the card could do, or like cool setups. And if you were going to play Beguiling Cobra, why wouldn't you play the combo? And it's just kind of not what we intended the card to be doing. So
based.
We're going to pull back on that, and hopefully people will play it in some other places.
Yeah, I think that's... I mean, like, unfortunately, I don't really know where else you could play Beguiling Cobra, but I'm sure people could come up with something creative.
Let's get on to the next nerf, Swindle.
Ugh. All right, this isn't that bad. Keep in mind, Samira Fizz is like my one of my favorite decks running around right now, all right? Swindle not being manifest anymore and a choose from 2, I can totally get behind that. It just kind of hurts me a little bit to see the deck getting nerfed.
Swindle's been a card that's been really potent ever since it's been released, partly just for the amount of
potent. I love that word.
You can kind of like slap it into most decks that have the ability to activate the Plunder, and then being able to know 3 of the non-champion cards in your opponent's hand really sets you up to make extremely strong choices going forward.
So from 3 to 2
cutting
now.
It back to 2 choices means you're like getting a less useful card some percentage of the time, but you're also just getting less things that you know to play around. Makes it a bit less headbendy to be on either side.
Headbendy. Walrus is on fire with the terminology today. They should change the terminology from manifest to Duo Fest. I'm sorry. They gotta change the art now. Okay, technically, this person's got 4 cards in their hand. They're sliding 1 in their sleeve, and then there's 3 cards in their left hand. Left claw. So they don't actually have to change the art. God, draw 3, pay attention.
Swindle, and hopefully tones the card back slightly.
At you, but if you play mostly meta cards.
No, yeah,
Put
changing
that on the
Swindle
slide,
means.
but just
I can get
Well,
behind
okay,
that as
so the truth's coming out. Oh man. Oh no, this next one is one of my highest.
I think they're taking Swindle out the card out of their sleeve. No, they're swindling the card. They're putting it in their sleeve. Ain't no way they're what? No, they're swindle taking.
Mastery champions. I think this is one of Majin Bei's highest mastery. Let's look at it.
Oh, Majin Bei mentioned. Is this Majin's highest mastery champion? I'm gonna message him right now. Is Samira one of your highest mastery champions? I need to see what he has to say about this. What the fuck? They made Flare 2 mana? No. No, they did. Wait, that's so bad for Samira. No. Oh my god, that's horrible. Wow. Let me think about this for a second. You play Samira on 2. Yeah, she's got a strike to just... No, that's so bad for her. Wow, that slows her down so much. She needs to strike too, so you probably like changes her playstyle. So you like strike with her first. Why the fuck did Fizz not eat a nerf? I would have been perfectly happy with Fizz eating a nerf. Make him a 1/1, god damn it. You see the fucking Fizz emote in the corner? They knew people like me would be malding over here. What the fucky? I'm upsetty spaghetti. I like Samira. I know she's strong, right? I know she's strong. And she's been strong for a bit of time. But I'm biased, god damn it. And I like her. Her getting flared down to 2 cost? Wow. Alright, I need to hear what they have to say about this. Why did they nerf Fizz?
couple people's highest mastery champion, probably, if we're being honest. Yeah, Samira, I mean, what has not been said about Samira? This is like her 4th time on one of these dev streams, I think, getting talked about. Yeah, so we are finally kind of pulling the band-aid off. Samira's flare is going up to 2, and her champ itself is going to reduce the cost of your flares when you strike to make it where they will cost reduce over time, but you're not going to have that round 2 play of, you know, I play the Samira, I flare my Samira, I challenge your 2-drop. That would happen a lot and would make a lot of 2-mana units that don't have 3 health not feel very good to play. Flare still being 2 means you can still do that in the later game and play her and challenge a thing, but we just really want to
even
open
then
up
that's
that
really
early
it's
game to
really
more
expensive.
units that have the ability to not just die to her and see more play.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into some buffs. I know nerfs can be kind of
why
hard.
didn't they hit Fizz? God, I hate Fizz. Like, okay, listen, I love Samira Fizz as a deck. There's a reason I say Samira's name first. Fizz is fucking annoying. If I didn't have to play Fizz, I wouldn't play Fizz. God damn it. Like, make Fizz only cancel, like, the first cast or something. You know? Like, give him delusion treatment or something. Yeah. Oh my god. I can't believe Fizz evaded nerfs once again. Samira's everything is in shambles. I'm in shambles. I don't know what I'll possibly do now. That was like the only deck holding it together for me. Nerfs not being able to target Fizz is a nice meme, actually. Oh my god. No, I don't know. It's not. It's not a meme anymore, guys. This is so sad. I mean, I can't really say that Samira died for Fizz's sins because she didn't. I mean, she's been a very solid, strong unit for a while now. And I'm rational, alright? I can be rational. Still. Yeah, no, I mean, like, the Samira Fizz deck is pretty dead. Right? God damn it. Not like this. This is so sad. I'm laughing and I'm joking around, but I'm actually very sad. I liked playing the Samira Fizz Nami deck a lot. I hope that they buff some other fun stuff. Samira Fizz was already struggling this last month. It was. I mean, to be fair, it was the only deck that I was playing. If you check my Runeterra AR, I was only queuing that deck up. Like, when I played Runeterra this weekend, I would just queue up that deck. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not like it was exceeding super well in the meta or anything. It's just, it's a delayed nerf to the deck, is what it was. But it's not just that, because Samira's been strong for a while. I don't know. Alright, let's move on to the buffs.
To stomach, but let's talk about the Titanic units.
Yeah, so as Aaron mentioned before,
okay.
We have a lot of Titanic
Tusk Raider and Clawcam being epics.
And we realize there's a bunch of big units from older sets that are like just on the verge of being Titanic, and might be helped if we gave them a little bit of an extra oomph. So yeah, we gave an extra power to the Zondiva, buffed up the Clockhand, I believe, by +1/+1, and then same for Savage Reckoner, and then gave an extra health to Sejuani's boat, the Tusk Raider. We think for all of these, like, it just kind of makes them an extra consideration for any deck that's already playing Sigils of the Storm and other Titanic benefits.
I see this as a quality of life change. Like, I understand it's a buff, but you won't play these cards except maybe Clockhand because of like an extra point in their like an extra point, in my opinion. I think if I were to rate like the impact of these buffs, I would say Clockhand is probably the most beneficial, and then Savage Reckoner, and then it's like Zondiva and Tusk Raider are the same, but like, yeah. It's just, I see them very much as quality of life. We live in a world where Darius exists next to Savage Reckoner. Wait, what's Darius's stat line? Six mana, 10/7. 7 mana, 8/5. That's fair, right? He's 6 mana. I think that's valid. I think. I mean, granted, you have to level Darius, I guess, but you usually play him in aggressive decks anyways, right?
And, you know, maybe...
Don't mind Jothri, he's just emotional from the Pyke nerf. That's so fun. He has Challenger? Yeah, but he comes down a whole turn later. That makes a difference, especially if you want to play this in like an aggressive deck, right? Darius sucks. Okay, well, also, but about, so does Savage Reckoner, so...
Someone hits a really nice Clash of Titans. All right, let's go on to more buffs. More buffs.
All right, more Titanic units. These ones a little fancier.
They buffed Biggest Pigus? I do enjoy Biggest Pigus.
We've added a couple play effects to Wrath of the Freljord and to Otacon, Bringer of Ruin. Really want to make these big plays do something, be more exciting. Wrath of the Freljord. Now, Frostbite's a thing, making it where it can attack through the turn it comes in, which is pretty awesome. And Otacon now has a play effect that revives your strongest dead ally, meaning where, you know, Otacon has always had a problem historically of you play it and it gets Will of Ionia or Vengeance and your 10 drop just kind of doesn't do anything.
That's very true, yes.
So now if it does get killed or recalled, you'll get something on the board and both.
Okay, before they get into Lord Eldridge, I want to talk about Biggest Pigus and Atacon. So Biggest Pigus, you get to choose you Frostbite. That's pretty cool. I like Biggest Pigus. Can you play Biggest Pigus? It was just kind of funny when you found him. You can choose who to Frostbite, so you could Frostbite. So you can. That's pretty good, honestly. You think we could make a Biggest Pigus deck? I feel like I keep calling it Biggest Pigus, but for those of you who are confused, I'm referring to Wrath of the Freljord. I feel like the Biggest Pigus buff is actually... I feel like it's more impactful than it might seem. We have to remember... So it's an 8-mana card, right? It's an 8/8 Overwhelm. You get to choose an enemy who cannot block, which means you get to swing for 8. And then the rest of the enemies can't block. So technically, it's like, it's giving you a lot. I think I like the buff a lot because it's like giving you a lot of tempo in the sense that like, you do get to choose who gets frostbitten. So you can not only force blocks, or you can force them to play a unit that has to block, right? I mean, it depends how much damage you represented by then already, right? Also buffs the wolves if you've got them in play. I genuinely think that this buff to Biggest Pigus is pretty decent. Like, I think this could... I think this could see play in a Freljord deck. Obviously a Freljord deck. What the fuck am I talking about? Obviously a Freljord deck. But what I'm saying is I think that this could see play. It's a glorified Arachnoid Sentry. Okay, yeah, but Arachnoid Sentry was really good back in the day. This is also, remember, it's a game ender. When it comes down on 8 mana, it's got to end the game. I don't think it's competitive, but I don't think it's bad now. Yeah. And I think that's pretty good because card was bad before, right? I genuinely don't think this card is like horrible now, which is pretty good. That's like raising it up at least a tier, which is more than some of these other like plus health stats have been, right? Anyways, Otacon is now basically Rekindler. Well, Rekindler was a champion specifically. Otacon is the strongest dead ally. Still not playable, by the way. But funny.
Hopefully not just die immediately. Eldred, Mage Seeker Leader, now gives a buff to your units whenever they survive damage, hopefully opening up this card to have decks you can build around it. Previously, it was just kind of a neat card, but there wasn't really a deck there, just giving your Nexus tough.
When an ally survives damage, grants it +1/+1. It's a Demacia card, so you can't really play it with Vlad. Maybe you could play it with Vlad. No, this card's still bad. But it's funny. The most impactful of these changes is definitely Wrath of the Freljord. Like I'm not saying there's gonna be a tier 1 deck or anything with Wrath of the Freljord, alright? I mean Biggest Pigus, sorry, might be. But like, I genuinely think like in an Ash deck, you could play Biggest Pigus. And be pretty happy about it. Like, my point is, it's not like Ash decks are super meta or anything, but you can at least say that they're like tier 2.5 or whatever. And that's pretty damn good, considering this card sucked booty cheeks before. Like, you can play this as like a 1-off or 2-off in an Ash deck, is what I'm thinking. Anyways, yeah, this is not as impactful change. Eldritch should be elite. Why isn't Eldritch elite? Can we talk about that for a minute? Does that make sense lore-wise? Is it like a lore thing that Eldritch is not elite? None of the Mage Seekers are elites. Mage Seekers are not elites. Okay, well, I guess I'm not very well read on the lore. Huh. I guess I am not well read on the lore. Okay, ready? I asked Majin what his mastery was, if Samira was up there, and he said she's up there, look. Samira is top 5. Alright, confirmation. Damn. They were right. Anyways, back to the Eldritch conversation. So he's not elite. So the Mage Seekers aren't elites. They're just Mage Seekers, and they're like mages. And then they just like, they complain about mages, and they shake their fists, and they're like, ah. And then the elites are like the warriors. Okay. I think I understand. Okay, but what are we? That's the real question. Are we Team Mage Seeker or are we Team Elites? This is important. I need to know where we as a collective stand on this issue. Are we I have to know. They're not even like against each other. Like, you have to pick one. Give me a pickable option. You have to pick one. Team Mage Seeker or Team Elite? Pick one or forever hold your peace. Team Elite seems better. Yeah, but if you're a Mage Seeker, you can be like mages, and you could like scoff at them, you know? I'd rather leave than vote. Can I be Team Mages? Teddy is a brave one. Mage Seeker, they talk better shit. Yeah, Mage Seekers are like, you get to actually shake your fist at somebody too. I feel like nowadays, this is me, you know, flaunting my old age, of course. I feel like nowadays, you never get to like actively shake your fist at somebody in rage. But if you were a Mage Seeker, you could shake your fist in rage all day. Mage Seekers. We're gonna... God damn. Alright, okay, so we're Team Elites then, right? The only cool Mage Seeker is the guy who says you have no alibi. That is true. You have no alibi. I think that's the same guy who says mages. That guy's just... That guy has some really good voice lines. Okay. It doesn't matter. We're still Team Elites, guys. It's... I love that guy. He's just so angry. Not even Lord Eldridge is that angry, honestly. I think that guy, what's his name again? I think he should be leading the charge. Mage Seeker Persuader? Mages can't hide from me. And then, yeah, that guy. You have no alibi. I can't fucking do his voice. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to do the inflection. You know what I'm saying? He should be leading them, honestly. Got a pretty cool beard. His lines are iconic. I know. He, like, slays his lines so hard. Okay.
People are very, very happy.
Show that we were paying attention to clock.
We also
Big boys.
That, like, normally we would do that.
Big boys get new toys. Whoever wrote that line needs a raise.
Speed, but yeah, this is not one that we felt okay giving you for free on Clash of Titans.
See, y'all are always one step ahead. All right, let's go to
Mages.
Berserker Ursine.
Yeah, so Berserker Ursine is definitely
Play a spell or skill, summon a sigil.
Latest expansion, just at 5/3. It has a very potent ability to kind of just print Sigils of the Storm. We were a little cautious with it when it came out, possibly too cautious.
Did Walrus just say sigils? Sigils of the Storm. We've been pronouncing it wrong the entire time. Okay, to be fair, I don't know how Twitch chat pronounces it. I've been saying Sigil of the Storm. Seagulls of the Storm. You know, he kind of does look like a seagull in a weird way. I don't know what I'm smoking, but like, if you really squint your eyes and think seagull thoughts, you could like just hear me out for a second. Like, squint your eyes, right? Close them, like half closed, half open. And think seagull thoughts. Oh my god, look, you can see it like this is the beak, right? This is the beak and this is like the big eyes right here. Just ignore the claws. I see it. Thank you. Thank you for the validation. I think you're being sarcastic. But you can kind of see it, right? Like it's got a beak with the eyes. And it's got claws. Okay. Seagull of the Storm.
So we wanted to give him a little more stats back.
Yeah, I mean, this card getting stats is fine. This card just didn't have enough payoff, especially for being a 6-mana card, that you would ever really want to play it. I'm going to be honest, I still don't think you want to play it as a 6-4. A 6-mana 6-4. Even though it consistently summons seagulls for you. Sorry, my B. I think that the Titanic or like the Voliere package would need to see more buffs in order to be a little bit more playable. I wonder if any of them have seen Berserk, by the way. I'd put money on some of them have, probably. Other buffs.
Alright, we're gonna start here with
Omen Hawk. Can block elusives. What the fuck? Why can you block elusives though? What the Badger Bird? Excuse me? Some of these changes are so funny. I'm not gonna lie. This is fucking hilarious. Like Omen Hawk can block elusives. This is the bird now. It's a buff to the lore? Why? Where in the lore does it say that Omen Hawk can block elusives? Okay, but seriously though. Of all the cards, huh? Listen to what they say? Okay, yeah, let me listen to what they say.
one of those elusive tech tools. This is the most important one I think we put in the patch. We have given Omen Hawk the ability to block elusives. There was a lot that went into this decision. You know, what region should have can't block elusives, what size of unit should have it. You know, I think blocking Badger Bear does it really, really well, and we wanted a smaller unit that kind of is able to trade off and give you a little bit of game against elusives, and one that you're just kind of willing to play.
Badger Bear blocks elusives so well, sometimes I don't remember that Badger Bear can block elusives. And I still attack with my elusive units into blocking Badger Bear.
Play in a generic Freljord Unity deck, and Omen Hawk seemed like a prime candidate for that. And also, I mean, it just makes sense for the Omen Hawk to be able to see what's going to happen. Duh.
Chat is losing their collective mind over this change. I'm gonna go back and look at like the analytics, and there's gonna be a giant spike, and that's gonna be when we got to this slide. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think comparing this with blocking Badger Bear is really interesting because like Badger Bear can end up brickwalling an elusives deck just because of the high health. In playing with this Omen Hawk change, it does a really good job of slowing them down without completely negating their game plan, which we think is a really like strong place for this ability in the future. It's not as potent as Badger Bear, obviously.
They say it's not as potent as Badger Bear, but they don't understand the innate hidden ability or like the innate hidden passive of Omen Hawk, which is that when you play Omen Hawk first, you always draw a 2/2 Omen Hawk within the next 2 allies. They don't know about the hidden Omen Hawk passive. So Omen Hawk is actually a 2/2, a 1-mana 2/2 that blocks elusive units, which is kind of insane, guys. Oh my god. This is really interesting. So long, Fizz. Is this the Fizz nerf that I want, that we all wanted? That Omen Hawk, we have to play Freljord? God. If you don't draw 2/2 Omen Hawk in turn 2, you're playing it wrong. I mean, if you don't draw 2/2 Omen Hawk in turn 2, you clearly didn't build your deck properly. That's the real situation about that, you know. I think I have like it's gotta be like over 70% of a chance of draw, 70% odds of hitting second Omen Hawk after you play the first one. It's just a thing that always happens. Inevitable. Omen Hawk is always 100% keep. Oh, 100%. I mean, like, Freljord seems to be getting, I mean, as many of the, like, as Freljord got nerfed with Warden and, like, the 3-mana girl that, like, equips and stuff, they are getting a lot of buffs. Which kind of scares me a little bit, because if I find Freljord can be a bit annoying sometimes, but we'll see. We'll see. Also, hey, Dan. I can't go up. What did it say? Can we get some wildfire games for the fun of it? No. I'm sorry. I wasn't a wildfire abuser. This is saucy. This is extremely saucy. I wonder how this is going to hold up. I mean, like, you always just play Omen Hawk, right? It's kind of schnutty buddy.
Badger Bear is extremely good at, you know, stopping that particular strategy. But this is a nice way for us to give kind of like a lower, you know, maybe put this ability out in the world more frequently without it just invalidating elusive strategies entirely.
Yeah, let's get into...
They'll probably, if they want to make this more of a thing, they'll probably make this a keyword eventually. Units that can block elusive. All I can see now is that Jaxorn can block against elusives. No. The Jaxorn stocks are going so high. No. Like, okay, to be fair, Jaxorn, like, the equip girl got nerfed. No, I don't like Jaxorn. Don't do this to me, please. Like, they don't, like, there's no more nerfs, are there? Oh, fuck, they did nerf Jaxorn. It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting, Spaghetti.
No particular reason for it to be slow, so we felt like in order to like modernize the card and keep it in line with our current design policies.
Ah, Exhaust goes to Burst. Called Shot goes to Focus Speed. That's interesting. I really like Called Shot going to Focus Speed, by the way. It's kind of cool. That's nice. We got a little Echo buff. Echo players everywhere can rejoice slightly. Called Shot's cool now. Called Shot is very cool now. This is like Called Shot's a very playable card. It's already a very playable card, but at Focus Speed, that makes a difference. I like that. Exhaust going to Burst Speed, in my opinion, doesn't really make too much of a difference. Yeah. Exhaust doesn't go into Burst Speed doesn't make a difference, but like, Called Shot at Focus Speed will matter when you don't, like, when you need more economy, like when you can't be passing your economy too much. Echo, we played Called Shot in Janna decks and Janana decks. No, don't do this. Don't do it. I mean, I know people will. God, the Janna stonks are also going way up. Exhaust to Burst Speed is a huge buff. Why? It's an actual combat trick. But this is a region... Actually, I was just thinking that it's just like a worse off version of like... What's the 1-mana predict card that gives -2? But Exhaust obviously has other benefits to running it in the deck. So now you can run it as a combat trick. Scrying Sands. Thank you, Ralphling. Thank you. It's a combat trick and pseudo removal in one. That's actually true. I'm glad you pointed that out. I think, yeah, Exhaust going to Burst probably has more implications than I'm thinking it does. Because I was just like, oh yeah, it's just Scrying Sands, but like, it doesn't really matter that it's Burst Speed. But now that Exhaust, I wasn't thinking of in the framework of, now that Exhaust is Burst Speed, it is not only a way of removing units, it is also a combat trick. Which makes a difference. It does actually make a difference. Very cool changes. I'm happy for both of these. I love Shurima. I can't necessarily say I love P and Z a ton, but I love Echo, so I'm happy to see this.
Made more sense at Focus. And in playing with it, it kind of like lets the deck play out a little more smoothly, but we don't think it probably moves Called Shot into like automatic include territory at a base level in an Echo deck. But possibly the more spicy one is Exhaust moving to Burst. So Exhaust is a card that at Focus Speed felt like it ought to be good, but never quite made it over the line, partly because it was really only usable as an offensive trick. And there's so many other vulnerable giving options and like power reducing options that having it be limited to only use on offense made the card feel very limited and just like didn't make the cut in most decks.
Yeah, I just didn't consider that it's like an all combat trick, which is pretty cool. Also, hey, Dragon.
So the
That's why I'm
elemental
excited.
decks Yeah, the elemental
2 to
decks,
2,
and especially
sorry.
the Freljord elemental package was something that was maybe came out a little weaker.
Does this
than
make a
we wanted.
difference?
Flamecaller Caprine was definitely one of those units that we were worried about in initial dev. I mean, a tough unit that scales its health is really powerful and can be really hard to remove.
Actually, yes, this does, right? Yeah, they're bringing posture. I got you. They're bringing a valid point. It's a tough unit that starts out 4 mana, 3 health tough, and then it grows itself because when you play it, you just likely play an elemental spell. When you play an elemental spell or skill, it becomes a 4 health tough unit, and tough is hard. Tough is hard to remove. Like the units are hard to remove, is what I mean to say. Okay, the real question though is, does this help out Jack Zorn? Because if it does, I hate it. This isn't good for Jack Zorn, right? Jack Zorn never wants to play this card, right? Oh, does it? Oh, fuck, does it? Someone tell me you don't want to play this card in Jack Zorn. You can't play this card in Jack Zorn, right? What elemental spells or skills is Jack Zorn running? Oh, someone please. No. Jack Zorn doesn't play elemental spells? Oh, thank you. Thank God. God. Thank God. Phrase. No, please. The panic is real, though. God, if Jack Zorn wanted to play this card, I would have been mad.
But
what is this description? I don't know what this description
means. Now
means.
It has 3 health and tough. Not a ton of things are going to remove it the round it comes into play, and it doesn't give your opponent a lot of time to interact with it before it really scales into a game ender. Hopefully giving those Freljord elemental decks a little bit of that stronger early to mid game that we want.
It's backwards? Flamecaller Caprine. Oh. Wait, but why'd they make it backwards? They have with Tusk much better? It is. Oh, okay. They gave Nukkle, Mako, and Bull. They swapped their keywords around. Poor fucking Nukkle. They switched the swatch, so they switched the name. Oh, that's so smart. That's way more big brain than I ever would have figured it out to be. Okay, wait. Poor fucking Nukkle, man. Nukkle's just vibing. Okay, but now they Mako and Bull switched keywords. Bull is the one with Overwhelm, which is definitely a lot better. And Bull has +1 attack. I mean, you still didn't really want to play these cards in the first place, though. I don't know how helpful this is.
These 3 have been kind of a big... They've always been intended as like the big payoff for the Bilgewater coins deck, but didn't quite end up landing, partly because of the distribution of keywords on Mako and Bull, where Brash being a elusive keyword that's a little bit better when the board's a little more limited.
Should have given Bull elusive and Nukkle overall. Hey, maybe that was... I'm sure that'd be good too.
Ending up on the biggest unit and then Overwhelm being on the mid-sized unit meant that your big payoff turn often didn't result in lethal damage, which is kind of disappointing for the deck and tends to lose you games. So we think this change is pretty interesting, both for when you're ready to go for the full combo, you now have a big Overwhelm threat to actually capitalize on that rally. But also if you're going to go for the mid-sized combo slightly earlier in the game, kind of play a value Nukkle Mako or something like that, the Brash is actually extreme.
Brash is such an interesting keyword because from what I've noticed, Brash is much stronger earlier in the game, which is why units like Neela can exist at 2 mana and are decently and are fine. At least I feel that Neela's in a pretty decent spot, and she can attack right on turn 2 because Brash is just stronger earlier in the game. As you go later into the game, one unit with Brash isn't a crazy thing. It's a lot easier to block essentially, right? So the keyword, from what I've noticed at least, gets weaker over time. But things like Neela's Boat can exist and still be game enders. because Neela has a way of increasing the power level of Brash later on, right? Because she'll like hit the entire board and stuff like that. And technically, if you spread out Brash over an entire board state, it is strong enough, right? Brash is the opposite of fearsome. Brash is the opposite of fearsome, but interestingly enough, they are also still both stronger early in the game. Hey, King Kojo, Jack buffs, and my Drum might be back for real. Jack himself is still not a solid enough payoff unit, and you'd have to find like another champion, probably, is what I'm thinking, to play in this deck list. Because Jack himself is not good enough. Getting him off boatage is huge. You can get him off the boat now? I haven't gotten to that buff yet.
That power back from the attune immediately.
Hey, yo, Metal Babs! I can't believe they buffed Metal Babs! She has a tune now? Oh, that's fucking amazing. I can't tell you how many times, like, during patches, I'm like, should I play Metal Babs in this deck? It's at least been, like, 3 times. Which is 3 more times than you would expect me to say it. But you bet your ass I'm like playing Metal Babs. At least in A deck, right? This is so funny. God, some of these changes are hilarious. I mean, they're like, I'm so far, I'm enjoying it. I'm mad and sad. I'm sad about the Samira nerf and Fizz evading nerfs. It's the biggest one I could think of. Everything else I'm pretty like okay with. And I'm like, some of them are just so funny. Smash? Yeah, I'm Smash.
With Jack and everything and the mana refilling.
Base? This is one of RuneClaw's favorite cards. Metal Babs is so fucking funny. I just want to make a cool Metal Babs deck.
Never quite splash, so hopefully kind of making it cost, half a less mana will give it a little more room to be played in some of those tempo spell decks that we see.
Awesome.
I think we're all rooting for Babs. And yeah, I like it a lot as well in Dev.
Oh gosh, the meme buff now. Okay.
All right, so this is
Brash
kind of
Gambler?
a long story, so we'll start you through this. We looked back at Brash Gambler, which is this Bilgewater card from like set 2, and we knew there was something missing from this card. It didn't feel complete, like it didn't really like match the idea of what the name was. So we looked at a bunch of different options for this one. Jules, you can go to the first one. First, we considered like giving it Overwhelm as a keyword, and seeing what that would look like, and whether or not the that would be enough. But it wasn't quite. So we tried another keyword. We tried Challenger. To see if that really like made it sing, but still something felt off about the card. So we went to Quick Attack next, I believe. Yeah.
Oh my god, they had so much fun with this, didn't they?
Stretch for Bilgewater. So we tried some negatives even, just to see if it was like overpowered. That didn't quite work. We tried, moving it into other regional, themes to see if it could maybe play in other Bilgewater.
Wait, they
decks,
changed the names too.
It didn't quite work. We tried, moving it into other
Rash Gambler, Splash Gambler, Flash Gambler. I didn't even notice the names. Bash Gambler, Clash Gambler. Wait, this is amazing.
Regional, themes to see if it could maybe play in other Bilgewater decks, and lurkers just didn't want it. And the next
Trash
one,
Gambler.
even with the name, it still wasn't throwing away enough cards to make deep decks.
Oh my
We even tried
god.
seeing if it belonged maybe in
Trash Gambler.
but this was terrible. I do not recommend that card.
Frostbite.
So eventually, we just came back to the original idea and just gave it Brash.
Oh my god, that's so fucking funny.
Whew, I was not ready for all that. That was good. All right.
Give us Trash Gambler, god damn it. That is fucking hilarious. That bit was amazing.
Brash Gambler. When the name says it, you should just move in. Brash Gambler actually going to give Brash. This card's been sweet for a
10 out of 10.
Hasn't seen play in a long time.
You should all play Brash Gambler now.
What's in a name? Maybe it'll be good now.
That's it.
Y'all are too much. Y'all are too much. Let's go. Let's keep going.
That's it. That's so funny.
Speaking of things that
They made like one of the most negligible buffs to a card, one of the funniest bits. That's fucking hilarious. God. King's Court now draws Jack. Hell yeah! That's what we've been wanting, right?
Maybe
That
we're
is a jack
incorrect
buff, which is
initially.
nice.
The King's Court is a boat. The community believes boats should draw champions, and we disappointed you. And I think everyone kind of agreed that maybe that was a
It
mistake.
is a
and
boat.
We should really commit to the idea that boats draw
Boat.
champs, and Jack definitely needs a boat that draws him. So, Jack fans, your boat is finally here.
Jack fans
We did have a
everywhere can
detailed
rejoice.
internal discussion about whether or not the King's Court is technically a submarine and thus it shouldn't draw Jack.
That is not a submarine. That's a boat.
But we figured this is pretty good for everybody.
I was gonna ask if you thought I was gonna just bring it up because people are always arguing over ships or boats, and I was gonna be it's kind of a submarine, but you beat me to it, John. I should have told you
Is it because it travels underwater? No, it's a boat. It's a boat.
before the stream that I planned on
One
doing it.
step ahead. That's what you said, Julian.
Oh, I like this change.
All
I
right.
like King's Court being able to draw Jack now. I think it's a buff to the card, or to the Jack archetype that is needed. Because Jack's not necessarily, like, the strongest card, you know? Okay, wait. Teddy is saying, jokes aside, isn't Brash Gambler actually good with Neela?
Actually gonna give Brash.
Play me, discard 2, draw 2, and grant them fleeting. 4 mana, Bilgewater. You can play it with Neela. It's got Brash. Because it's Brash Gambler. You have to discard 2, though. What are you discarding? Draw 2, and grant fleeting. The cost of discarding is sometimes higher than you would expect. My deal with Hextech is now complete. At least from what I've noticed, at least. Discard is kind of like updrafting. Huh. That's an interesting way of putting it. You draw 2 and grant them fleeting, and the Neela package lets you continuously keep drawing cards because of what you want to run. Discard the fleeting cards to get fleeting. Maybe? Maybe you could run this as a saucy one-off in a Neela deck. I kind of want to try that now, actually. Interesting. I do actually want to try that. I think it could be worth exploring. Portal Pioneer is now a Yordle. Cool. All right, moving on. I think this is like a very negligible change to the card. Oh, they're changing the Yordle cards. Yordle Explorer gets +1 health now. Cool. I mean, it's still the Yordle archetype, right? Like, as long as they don't keep buffing Yordle cards, these changes are... I don't think that they're, like, super important. Right? Right? They don't keep buffing Yordle cards, right, guys? Enlightened buff. What is enlightened buff? Instead, deal 3 to all enemies. To all enemies and heal. Oh! That's interesting.
A bunch of little Yordles. Look at that. We are changing this card to have the Enlightened buff only deal damage to your opponent's units. The fact that when this card was Enlightened and you had your 10 mana and you often were, you know, at parity on board or a little ahead, not very exciting to play it. Hopefully now this just makes it feel a little better when you actually get
Any change to it?
with your sweet effects.
Oh, man.
Kind of fall off.
Another Freljord card buff. Freljord is eating good. Freljord enjoyers are eating good after this dev stream, that's for sure. I mean, like, you lose Warden, and the Equip Girl got nerfed, but, like, lots of Freljord buffs today. And they didn't even touch the Reputation archetype, which is kind of insane. I know it's an old meme at this point, that they would always buff Reputation.
Like most Freljord AoE effects hit both sides of the board, but not Anivia's attack effect, so maybe there's a little thematic connection too.
That's a cool connection to it.
All right, next to Shark.
Yeah, we also took a look.
Wait. They're not gonna keep buffing Yordles, right, guys? Right? Right? No spell mana cost. Okay, that's not like super negligible. Okay, ready? But here's the thing about Yordles, okay? Yordles sneak up on you. You get 1 buff to a Yordle archetype, you get 2 buffs to a Yordle archetype. You get 3 small buffs to a Yordle archetype. You're like, yeah, no big deal, right? Not a big deal. That doesn't matter. That's what like Yordles are. It's like small, like inconsequential units that you just kind of don't consider. And then next thing you know, you're dead. Or next thing you know, the archetype is like super fucking broken and busting down your door. Not that I'm saying that Yordles are gonna be super busted and breaking down our doors, but like this is a concerning quantity of Yordle buffs. More than I would expect or prefer, for that matter. Give them 1 small buff and they keep coming back asking for more. Exactly. There's no more Yordle buffs, right, guys? Right? It's just it stops here.
You don't get your shark, and you're very.
I do think Shark Trainer is really cool. I actually really enjoy Shark Trainer.
All right, let's keep on trucking along.
Harrowing return. Yordles deserve some love. There are some Yordle cards I really didn't like. One of the big ones was like Yordle in Arms. Now grants Fearsome. Grants. Let's try and get it from Fearsome. That's still not good, right?
All right, we have some of those cool epics that have always been kind of bad. We're adding a little bit to them. We have the Harrowing.
They're kind of giving it like.
Now going to revive the unit with Fearsome. It was always cool to revive Fearsome units because it gives that minus power to the enemy team. But now, no matter what you're going to
It does give -1. That's true. That's true.
Maybe you'll get to get in for an extra hit a little more often. On top of that, on it.
Maybe you could find a fun deck with that.
Going to go down to 2 cost. The time delay and the setup and stuff required for Haunted 2 made it pretty hard to play, round 6 alongside.
It's hard for me to judge whether these cards or not will be playable or not. I don't know why. I just look at them and I'm like, these are bad cards, right? I still revive the strongest dead ally. I still don't think you want to play them, to be quite honest with you, because I think Haunted Tomb is manipulatable by the opponent, which makes it not as good when you'd rather just play Miscall, the 3-mana spell that revives the ally that died or whatever. I mean, so Miscall is also manipulable, but this is like over time. It's slow. I don't know about Harrowing Return. Maybe in a saucy Fearsome deck.
Another thing you really needed to play.
Haunted Tomb Talia. That could be fun, actually.
Once you're ready to revive.
Love to see a Talia Ruination deck.
Gives you. Moving her up to a 3-mana 3/3 makes her a little more at parity with things that you'll normally be playing on those rounds. Lets you not pay quite.
That's like a Pantheon buff, kind of.
Like future investment.
Cool, but we never really saw a ton of decks trying to play it. Now we're changing it to a team buff. It is slow now to compensate for being such a more powerful effect, but now your big butt stack can fill the board and actually get a huge payoff. And
all
of those
allies?
you've been so excited to play, as we all know.
A lot of what spams in chat?
All allies. All of them. Isn't Soraka an Eternal? They rotated out Soraka, didn't they? Yeah, they rotated out Soraka. This is really funny in like Starspring decks. But they rotated Soraka, which is interesting. So you can't really play this card in a standard meta is what I'm thinking, because there's just no payoff. There's no champion, there's not really an archetype that will offer payoff to you for playing a card like this. I mean, it does grow your power equal to their health. Doesn't even matter, not even like formidable units or whatever. Formidable buff? No. I mean, it's just fully, the only thing you're taking advantage of in formidable is just the heal, right? Which I don't think matters too much. I think this card's still a meme in standard, but we'll have to double back and check on it again in Eternal.
Soraka.
We basically worked on a lot of different angles.
Overwhelm swap to Challenger. It reminds me a lot of the card that you discard. What do you call it? Just the 4-mana one. You know what I'm talking about. Lost Soul. Twin Blade Revenant. This card used to have Challenger, fun fact, and then it was so broken that like everyone played it. They changed it to Fearsome because it was healthier, right? Because everyone, they would just keep cycling Lost Soul and just keep challenging your units over and over and over and over again. This is obviously very different. It's just a Challenger unit that once you've discarded cards, it just becomes +2/+1. Becomes a 4/3 for 3 mana.
To try and bring Scion back.
Solidish unit, yeah, sure. I mean, that's fine.
Deck a little bit of a boost. And one of the things that we realized is that Noble Rebel was kind of not fitting into the actual strategy of that deck.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's not. I mean, I don't think this card single-handedly brings in the Scion deck into the meta. There'd have to be other numbers of factors
Not a
for
vanity
that.
buff for myself, in spite of my Twitter avatar. But
That's
did feel
funny.
like Deep needed a little bit more strength in the early game, and found that like buffing
35.
Tusk's health,
That's a wall. That is a tank of a unit, to be honest.
like,
I think that's a solid
blocker at
buff
that
to
point
deep
really
units.
helps slow you down
I say that now, but I'm going to be raging when my opponent plays Mega Tusk on turn
until the
4.
point where you can actually hit deep.
I love the fucking
I'm very happy.
big
with
flex.
So for full context for everybody, John's avatar is the Mega Tusk on like everything.
Yeah, he totally
Just
is.
gotta
So funny.
You get
I
one
think it's a
night.
very solid deep
and
buff, though.
resolving it is really fun to watch. Watching
Eclectic going to 6 mana from 7. Eclectic to Electric. Nice. 6 mana? You can play this on turn 3 now if you really wanted to. Plant an for each ally, but it's for each ally though. You don't want to play it on turn 6. Play Hymernora. I don't know how impactful this going down in mana cost is. It's certainly much more playable, of course, right? I mean, that's the point of all the buffs, right? But the question is, how much more playable does this card get? And I don't know, because there hasn't been, like, a Bandle Swarm deck that's existed for at least a couple patches now. So it's a little bit harder to tell.
all the traps.
All the Jace memes with Eclectic, yeah.
champions, where sometimes you just end up with a
Okay, I was like, it's enough Yordle buffs. God damn it. But like, this isn't that bad. It just plants 5 minimum. This is like what happens if like sometimes you summoned. The only thing I can think of is when you summon Teemo off of Howling Abyss, and then you played Teemo, and then you attacked with him, because Howling Abyss gives you a level champion, and then Teemo would not plant any shrooms in your deck. Because you would get a level Teemo, but the opponent's deck wouldn't have any shrooms in it because you're playing a Howling Abyss deck. This is mostly just for Path. Oh, hey, Brian. That makes a lot of sense, yeah. I don't know why I specifically thought of the Howling Abyss interaction, and don't ask me how I know about that, but that is something that has very specifically happened to me at least twice in my life. Which, like I've mentioned, is 2 more times than you would expect it to happen to an individual. But has happened to me at least twice. It's a Howling Abyss buff. This is a Howling Abyss buff, guys. With all the Freljord buffs, too. This is great. We're playing Howling Abyss, baby. Maybe because this is Howling Abyss on the screen. Okay, I'm genuinely serious. I didn't read that. I actually didn't read that. I'm serious. I just looked at the Teemo buff. And I didn't read the side thing until just now. I'm being so for real right now. You're gonna have to take me on my word for it, alright? Alright, anyways.
to Teemo that doubles the 0 puff caps in the enemy deck and does absolutely nothing. We wanted to make him slightly less useless when he shows up in those cases, so we've moved it to a 5 minimum puff cap. It's possible for this to show up in constructed games if something really weird happens and your opponent draws a lot of puff caps early, but for the most part, it's just for those things.
This
If it shows up in a real game and it causes you to lose, please send your complaints to @RiotIamWalrus.
Yes,
I'd love
please
to hear
do.
about it.
I wonder.
I want to take just a second.
I wonder how many ats Walrus gets in a day. People being like, "Hey, like this blah 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 blah." I wonder.
To go on a little aside. So we actually did an interview with Dan Felder from the Path of Champions team and the Real Prism Sword. And one of the things that he brought up in the interview was like, so for you who haven't checked it out, you can potentially get some like level 2 champions in Path with Aurelion Soul. Go check out the interview, the Real Prism Sword. It's on YouTube. I think they also have it on Twitch. And they made a comment like, "Oh, Teemo would be kind of useless just coming out as level 2. You can't double those buff caps." So when I saw this, it made me smile. So once again, go check out that.
Teemo is no longer useless in Path of Champions when Aurelion Soul specifically pulls it. That's so funny. Shadow stepping up Kayn's game. -1 cost. 3 mana Shadow Step, huh? I actually really like this. I mean, Kayn hasn't been played for quite a while at this point. So I think also my like of this change is rooted in the fact that, you know, I kind of miss Kayn. Kind of want to see him running around in the meta again, you know? I don't know what kind of deck you'd be playing him in. He used to play Kayn with, like, Kayn Aatrox. I think it was more so before, like, Vayne was running around. Technically, Kayn Aatrox and Kayn Vayne... No, Kayn Aatrox and Vayne Aatrox existed at the same time for a short period of time. But, like... Yeah, I kind of miss Kayn a little bit. I like him. As 3 mana Shadow Step. I wonder what they have to say about this.
Pretty powerful already, but we have decided to take it down to 1 cost, -1
It's a
cost.
very powerful champion spell.
Kayn has suffered a bit after some of the changes we've made to the cultist stuff and the level ups, and just over time has fallen off a little bit.
Wait, I saw on the Runeterra the lore report thing, didn't they also change the Momentous buff bug? That makes a big difference, doesn't it? For Kayn? I mean, also Varus too, right? It's pretty important. Turn 5 Kayn level up. Play him on 5, and then spend Shadow Step afterwards. That's kind of cool. Turn 5 Kayn level up the moment you play him. That's very, very solid. I anticipate with this change, you'll probably see some Kayn decks running around. I mean, to be fair, like, Aatrox Vayne was suppressed previously by, like, Warden deck lists. And so Warden deck lists are not decks that... I'm going to say that they're not going to exist anymore in the competitive meta. So far, I haven't seen any Trox Vayne nerfs, which is leading me to believe... Actually, there's been a lot of Freljord buffs. But that brings me back around to my point that we might... Kayn Trox might be stronger because of it. I think Kayn Trox still folds to Frostbite. For those of you who don't know, Trox Vayne is atrociously bad into Frostbite. Very bad. It's like a 20% win rate for Trox Vayne. So with Freljord buffs with more Freljord buffs existing in the game, people are going to be playing more Freljord, not to mention Omen Hawk. I think that'll probably still be enough to suppress Trox Vayne as a deck list. That would be my speculation about that. But I'm hoping that we'll see some Kayn come up. It'd be cool if he could, like, if he existed in a different medium as well.
It just makes him a little more exciting. This makes it where you can play your Kayn into your Shadow Step a little more frequently and get that really powerful 1-2 punch. And hopefully can bring Kayn back into the meta.
Julian at the bottom's like losing it.
A bug fix that will end up buffing Kayn a good bit. The Momentous Choice.
Talking about Momentous Choice buff, yeah.
Reducing its cost properly. I believe the fix for that is in this update.
It's a huge change, by the way, or a huge bug fix.
I think my favorite comment was from Captain Sarah, who this whole stream, she's been like, let them cook. Yes. Good change.
I love
Captain
Sarah.
was like, whoa. Let's slow down now.
Sarah's telling them to stop cooking. That's so funny. I like the change. Oh my god, they're cooking! They are cooking! Children of the Forest being fast speed? Are we gonna see this card getting played? Ain't no way. I've never, ever seen Children of the Forest played, like at all. Fast speed, recall an ally for 2 mana, or spend 8 mana to summon an ephemeral copies of 3 strongest followers you've recalled this game. Wow, that's suddenly a much better card. Wow. I wonder if it has a fancy animation. I genuinely could not tell you if this card has a fancy animation. This is much better. Wow. Okay, listen. Not that I'm an Ionia enjoyer, but I like this because it's only recalling allies and not the enemy. So when my opponent plays this against me, I'm not going to be raging. A much better card. Whoever suggested that buff is probably very handsome. Ah, yes. I wonder who suggested that buff. Very curious indeed. Kaylor said, I admit it was me. I can't even say it was me because I haven't been wanted. Children of the Forest hasn't even been on my mind. That art is very pretty, by the way. Randomly generate in the middle of a game for karma. Let's see what else that they ended up buffing for this card, though. Because, like, on its own, this doesn't, like, this is good, but you still don't really want to play it because recall itself is not in a fantastic spot. But it looks like I spy a singular will buff over there for 9 mana. The same cost of Ruination, by the way. In Ionia, pick an ally, recall all other units and landmarks. Okay, wait, I'm trying to remember real quick. With Singular Will, when you play it and you pick an ally, if your opponent, for example, vengeances the unit that you pick to not get recalled, this card will still recall all other units and landmarks, right? Because there's a period between pick an ally and recall all other units and landmarks. Or that's correct, it still procs? Okay. Yes, gotcha. Okay, that's good then. This is great. I feel that this is a lot more solid for Ionia in general. That being said, Ionia definitely needs a lot more help as a region because Ionia, okay, listen. Y'all know I'll be the first one to admit that Ionia is not my favorite region, but yes, Ionia would technically need more help. But I have a feeling we're going to see more Ionia buffs. I have a feeling Ahri's going to be good. Wait, Ahri gets buffed too, doesn't she? I'll have to look. Kiss a homie players in shambles. Okay, listen, if you're a Kiss a homie player, I think you're already in shambles. I think you would have been in shambles before the Singular Will buff. Liminal Guardian also gets +1 power. I'm not gonna lie. Like 9 lives with Liminal Guardian. I've seen this card actually played more times than you would expect. Just like really randomly. And every time I see my opponent play this card, it completely catches me off guard. It's like that Office meme where Dwight looks down and Angela's just standing there and he's like, oh, what the hell are you doing here? Like he doesn't say it exactly like that, right? But like whenever my opponent plays 9 lives, it's exactly how I feel. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing running 9 lives? So it's interesting because people do run this card, and I think it is because it's like the 5 mana spell. It does give you the 2 units technically, right? So yeah, this is a start certainly for Ionia buffs. Let's check out some of the other. See what else they. Oh god, I'm just like putting spaces in my chat. I'm trying to.
We've done a bunch of recall changes for this as well, kind of looking at some various things.
I do like the
Children
Singular
of the
Will
Forest,
change.
This is a spell that when it originally cost, I think it was like 8 mana. Isn't it? Yeah, it's 8. It was just the 8
unplayable
version of this modal card, where basically it would summon the 3 strongest things you've recalled all game. It's a very potent effect, but like at 8 mana and then asking you to kind of like
it was unplayable for
game plan, it never really panned out. So we made it into a modal option that lets you recall an ally for 2 mana, which is a little underrate, or spend the 8 mana for the big finishing move.
This is probably my favorite change, like on the I was gonna say of the Ionia changes, but I think these are the only 3 Ionia changes we've seen so far. But
I think this is a really
I do
cool,
like this change a lot.
Testing card in terms of it lets you do things early on if you don't want to wait for the mana, but the card also sort of incentivizes you to consider like recalling your opponent's big things. So it isn't just strictly another piece that just slots into Ahri Kennen without thinking about it. So I'm really excited about this one.
Ahri Kennen.
Bragging about it a lot because Aaron was the one who pitched the change, I believe, for this. And she did a
I
great
just
job.
changed it so when you generate it mid-game, it's not totally useless. You're welcome.
We also added one more power to Liminal Guardian, which you'll
Good
see
old
off
Liminal
9
Guardian.
lives, which, don't be worried if you didn't know that.
Quality of
because
life
not many
change.
players have ever resolved that
John's
card.
wrong. It was me, Madge.
It's a burst blocker, which is kind of potent and makes the
Madge. Damn. Can't believe they got it wrong. This is the first part of stream. Did we get any P&Z changes? We did talk a lot about the P&Z changes at the beginning. It's okay, we're all one design team. Yeah! Everyone basically suggested it then. 9 lives is a melee buff.
really notable, but we still wanted to make sure it stayed
That is
flat,
not a
so
melee
it's
buff. I'm sorry.
too
I'm
strong,
sorry,
like,
Breezy.
shifting your board presence after it comes in and blocks
No,
and
there's
then
no
lastly,
way.
we have Singular Will, which used to cost 10 mana and now costs 9. This is still a really expensive effect for a really potent effect, but taking a little bit of numbers off of it will hopefully move that epic from something that you would absolutely never cast to something
It's in
that
line
maybe,
with changing
like,
epic
is a
cards.
slightly
Makes sense.
Interesting edge case option
Specifically
for an
for
Ionia
Ionia
deck looking
too.
for mass removal.
Awesome. So
It's helpful
this
for
is
the
all
region in
hinting
general.
towards our last change.
Ooh. Ooh. Ahri?
Here we go. Ahri, -1.
What if you could generate Pyke spell with melee? It's too soon, Breezy. It's too soon. Don't be coming around suggesting Pyke spells, alright? Ahri. -1 for equal 5+ units. How impactful is this for Ahri as a unit? I want to hear them talk about it.
Level up. She has been she's champion players. Some players really love, and she's not been good for a little while.
Why not a
We're hoping
2/3?
Decreasing her level up, letting her get to that level 2 a little sooner, will help you play her more often as a 3 health unit, buy a little less, and just be more satisfying to use. Don't want to see Ahri Kennen return to its extreme dominance in the old days.
Thank you. Please, don't. You don't want hard to kill Ahri? That's true. That's very true. 2/3 quick attack? Hell not, Chief. That's so interesting. That's so interesting. Because I felt like before, I mean, not before, if you had asked people previously, and maybe I'm biased based off of like who I've interacted with in chat and what I see on Twitter, but I've seen people like saying, oh yeah, like revert back Ahri, blah 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 blah, right? But then when you do seriously consider it, it would be very annoying to deal with. And I mean, like, in the context now, especially that we know that other Recall and Ionia spells are getting buffed, it makes a lot more sense that the level up is getting decreased. Instead, her level up was very hard to hit. To be fair, though, Ahri, when she levels up, is usually ending the game. It's like, it was one of those things, okay, but that was also when it was an Ahri Kennen meta. I'm seeing Sorokon saying I wasn't playing the Ahri Kennen meta. Kennen, okay, listen, I love Ahri. I think Ahri's actually so cool. I hate Kennen. He's so annoying. And that's like such a testament to Kennen, because like Kennen is technically, he is like, I just don't really like, he's just like a little piece of shit, and he's like, yeah, like a million times, right? That's like him. I think I'm also traumatized by like Kennen Ezreal things. And it's like Kennen, I don't like Kennen because he always like, it's like, he's just an annoying little shit. That's like his thing. That's his thing. That's like his League of Legends thing. That's his Legends of Runeterra thing. That's who he is, right? It's core. So that deck was obviously very powerful back in its heyday, And so when Ahri was leveling, the implication was that the game was over if you got to the point where you were leveling your Ahri. Now, with a lower level up condition on Ahri and Kayn being weaker overall as a unit, her having an easier level up will definitely make the deck stronger, which I'm conflicted about. It's like my feelings with Samira Fizz. Can you tell I don't like Yordles? It's like my feelings with Samira Fizz, where I love Samira as a unit and I love that side, but I hate Fizz. So it's like, oh God, it's like beautiful women in these stinky Yordles. Anyways, yeah, I wonder if there'd be another archetype, another deck that's not Ahri Kayn, but I'm pretty sure you just want to play Ahri Kayn, right? Beautiful women and stinky Yordles. Think about breaking darkness too. To be fair, Veigar's not that stinky.
Awesome. And that concludes our balance.
Nice. Very nice. And I'm overall, I had to think more about the implications of things that weren't touched. But for the things that were, besides Samira, I'm happy with the changes that went through, and I'm happy with the buffs and stuff like that. I'm particularly, maybe because it was the last one, but I am excited about the Ahri change. I like playing Ahri decks. So we'll see. I think that's probably going to be one of the first decks that I test out on Wednesday. Even if that means I do have to play Stinky Kayn. I'm sad about the Samira change, but I was expecting a Samira nerf since she has been strong for a bit of time. I have to think harder about the implication of cards and archetypes that were not hit, though, right? Because we have to think about already powerful decks that exist and whether or not they'd be able to exist given that other cards have been nerfed or other cards have been buffed. So I already kind of briefly talked about it, but for example, Aatrox is an example of one deck that has reigned supreme for a decent amount of time. And the question is if it still will in a meta where Freljord has received a hefty number of buffs. Not necessarily Frostbites in general, but Freljord, which means that we will be seeing more Freljord being played around. Aatrox does not like Frostbites. That being said, you'll combat Vaynetrox with Kayntrox, yes. I still think we're gonna see some Trox running around. He's an Angie boy. He's gonna make it be known that his last word is heard. So I think we haven't heard the last of Trox in general. So whether that comes back as Vaynetrox or Kayntrox, obviously I couldn't tell you. Unfortunately, Jax Ornn stocks are higher than I would like them to be. And Jax Ornn is definitely, I think, is still going to be a fairly strong deck. The only saving grace we could have against this would probably be, it's not Rise, despite what Copas is saying, would probably be like recall-oriented stuff for Ionia, right? So there's Jax Ornn. What's another like strong deck list that didn't really get hit as much? Janna's a good point. Janna didn't really get hit, did she? Huh. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna see a lot of Janna decks running around. Neela didn't get nerfed? Yeah, like Janna Neela stuff. I think that's fine though, because not only did those units just come out, like they just recently got like released into the game. Although they were strong, I don't really felt like they had their proper amount of time to bask in the glory, you know, when Warden was an extremely meta deck. Like, yes, the deck was one of the higher play rate decks of last patch, right? I say last patch like we're not still on this patch. But, like, I think that they deserve to have, like, some time in the limelight, and I say that also. I mean, like I enjoy the Janna like updraft mechanic, and I think Neela's very cool as well. So I say that now. We'll see how I feel at the end of the patch. But I think it's fine. I mean, like, I would prefer that stronger champions are released rather than underpowered ones. Not that I want them to be, like, ridiculously broken or anything, right? Nobody wants that, of course. But, like, at the moment, I don't think Janna or Neela is ridiculously broken. I just think they're strong. Kind of like how Samira was strong. Rest in peace. So I think that it's perfectly fine that Janna and Neela are getting their some more time in the sun. More limelight. You know, you get the point. Anyways. I'm glad that Janna actually uses her support cards. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure like you can use all of Janna's support cards, which is pretty cool. I'm happy overall. I'm definitely happy overall. I would say that if I were to do comparative, like buffs versus nerfs, I'm happier with the buffs. Happier with the buffs. I think I'm like, yeah, I would say that there are no buffs that I'm unhappy about. All of them I'm like, this is cool, this is nice, right? I am satisfied with the nerfs. If I were to do like a judgment, right? Because I know people always come in and they're like, oh, what do you think of the patch? Blah, blah, blah. You know? I'm satisfied with the nerfs and I'm very happy with the buffs.